For those of you who enjoy a good end times timeline like we do, you are in for a treat. Because today we're going to take a look at the most ancient end times prophecy that comes with a time frame, and that is Enoch's 70 generations prophecy. For just a little bit of context, this prophecy was given before the flood. And when Father spoke these words and Enoch recorded them, it was as part of Father's judgment against the fallen angels who were destroying the earth at the time. It was the time that Moses was talking about when he wrote in Genesis 6 that the earth was filled with violence. It was violent because in those days you had fallen angels who had married women and had produced giants, and those giants were killing mankind. And the angels were teaching mankind how to kill one another. They were teaching them weapons and warfare and all sorts of other lawless information that Father did not want man to have, either at all or at the time. So our Father's decision at that time was that he would flood the earth. And as for the fallen angels who had come and taught all of these violent deeds to man, he decided that he would make those angels watch their offspring kill each other off. And it's recorded in Enoch chapter 10, verse 12, that Father said in those days, "When their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations." So Father's judgment against these fallen angels is that they were to be bound for 70 generations until the day of their judgment. And that day of their judgment, as I am about to show you, happens when YASHUA returns. That makes this 70 generations prophecy the very first indication that was given to mankind of when the end of days would actually take place. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the end times judgments that are in the Bible, and then we'll talk about how Enoch's 70 generations prophecy fits into that timeline. Taking a look at the end times timeline, we know that at some point in the near future, YASHUA is going to return. And before he returns, there are 7 years that the prophets spoke about. Some people think it's only 3.5 years that the prophets describe, but one of the prophets that points us to a full 7 years is Enoch, which we'll get into down the line. So you've got 7 years before YASHUA returns. And that last 7 years of the age has not started yet. So on this timeline on your screen, you will see that we are somewhere before that last 7 years. So we've got the last 7 years of the age, and then YASHUA's return. And after his return is going to be a 1,000-year-long period of time that we call millennium. And during this time, YASHUA is going to be reigning here on earth. And after that 1,000 years, we have eternity. Enoch describes eternity as weeks upon weeks upon weeks without end forever. The scriptures tell us that at YASHUA's return, the saints are going to be resurrected. So anyone who has put their trust in the Lord and who loves our Father, and who he considers his own, and they have passed away, he is going to raise them up at his return. We read about that in Revelations 20, verse 4, and also in 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 16 through 17. In Matthew 25, we read that when YASHUA comes back, he will sit on the throne of his glory, and the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people like a shepherd. The sheep who are his are going to enter into their inheritance, and the goats who are not his will go into the eternal fire that is prepared for the devil and his angels. We also see in the scriptures that when YASHUA returns, the Antichrist and the false prophet go into the lake of fire. And Satan is not going into the lake of fire at that point in time, but he will be bound and sealed up in the abyss, where he will spend the next 1,000 years. So all of these things put together, this is all the first judgment that happens at the end of days, and it all happens at YASHUA's return. A lot of people call this first judgment the sheep and goats judgment, and that's because YASHUA told us that he's going to separate the people like a shepherd. So he's coming in judgment, and he's coming as a shepherd. That's going to be important in just a moment. After this first judgment is complete, then we have all of millennium to enjoy. And at the end of millennium, we read in Revelation chapter 20 that Satan is going to be released from that abyss that he's been locked up in for 1,000 years, and he's going to be allowed to gather people together for a very short war, after which he's going to be thrown into the lake of fire. So at YASHUA's return, Antichrist and false prophet went into the lake of fire, and 1,000 years later, Satan goes into that same lake of fire. We read in Revelation 20 as well that at that time the rest of the dead are raised to judgment, and anyone whose name is not in the book of life will be thrown into the lake of fire. This end of millennium judgment is often called the white throne judgment. So you've got the first judgment, which is the sheep and goats judgment, and the second judgment, which is the white throne judgment. Now, Enoch talks about two judgments as well in a few places in his book. One is in his 10 weeks prophecy, which is something that we will go over in great detail once we get to that chapter. And he also talks about two judgments in his parable of the animals. So in his parable of the animals, he makes it very clear that the angels who came to earth and mated with women and taught men and women lawless things like what we've been talking about for the past few episodes, those specific angels get judged in the first judgment at the end of days. We know this because Enoch saw them being judged when the throne is set up in the pleasant land, meaning in Israel, and when the Lord of the sheep himself sits upon that throne. So remember what YASHUA said. He is coming and he is going to sit on the throne of his glory, and he will be separating the peoples like a shepherd. A long time before YASHUA even spoke the words in Matthew about the end of days and about his return, his prophet Enoch saw it in advance. He saw the Lord of the sheep, so he saw YASHUA, our good shepherd, and he saw him coming to execute judgment on people and on angels. And what Enoch has to say about it is that at that time, those fallen angels will be cast into an abyss full of fire and flaming and full of pillars of fire. That's in Enoch chapter 90. Now, getting back to Enoch chapter 10, Father's instructions about these fallen angels were bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth till the day of their judgment. So if, as we have just shown, their judgment day is at Yeshua's return, then Yeshua's return is also the end of this 70 generations that Father told us about in the Book of Enoch. When you read about generations in the Bible or in the Book of Enoch, it's not talking about a specific set number of years. So one thing that's important in trying to understand prophecies that relate to generations is there's a difference between a lifespan and a generation. The lifespan of man can be 70 years or 80 years or 120 years max, like we talked about last time. But the length of a generation in the Bible and in Enoch has to do with the amount of time that passes between father and son and grandson and so forth. The really simple way of looking at this is to think about your own family. If you have brothers and sisters and cousins, those are all in your generation. And if you have children, then that's the next generation. And your parents are the previous generation. So the biblical concept of generation is that simple. Now, for us, the generations and the genealogy that matters the most when it comes to prophecy is the genealogy and the generations of Yeshua, Messiah. And in the book of Luke, Luke tells us that from the days of Enoch to the time of Yeshua, there were exactly 70 generations. To put it another way, Yeshua is the 70th descendant from Enoch. Now, if Yeshua came already, then why hasn't the judgment that was set for the end of 70 generations against these angels, why hasn't it happened yet? And the answer to that is that the generation of Yeshua is ongoing to this day. And you and me and everyone listening here who belongs to our Father, we are all the same generation as Yeshua. We are all brothers and sisters with the same Father. So we are the same generation. Some of you have heard us talk about this in other videos and in our writings, but since some of you may be new who are listening, let me give you the fuller explanation of this concept because it is important when you're looking at a few different Bible prophecies, not just this one. But there was a day when I looked at Yeshua's genealogy and Father gave me this understanding. He is the first. He is the last. He is the beginning. He is the end. He is the last generation. There are no generations after Yeshua on this list. He was put to death for our sake, so the list ends with him. Those who belong to Yeshua become sons and daughters of God, just as Yeshua is called God's Son. And Yeshua came to put us on his own genealogy so that we can partake in the inheritance that our Father wants to give to his children. Yeshua said, "Go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." The Apostle John wrote, "Beloved, we are God's children now." King David prophesied, "A seed shall serve him, it shall be accounted to the Lord for a generation." And Peter says, "You are a chosen generation." So this generation includes all of Father's children since the days of Yeshua, which means that we're the same generation as the apostles. If you've ever wondered why, when Yeshua was speaking with his disciples and he was giving them all of these signs of the end times, and his signs clearly cover 2,000 years of events that started with the apostles and include things that haven't even happened yet in our day, like the abomination of desolation. Yet he said, this generation will not pass away until all of the events that he described take place. So 2,000 years of events, what does he mean? He was talking about the generation of brothers and sisters and sons and daughters of God our Father that is not going to pass away until our number is filled and the end of days occurs. Now, once all of these events occur, Yeshua says, this generation shall not pass away until all these things are fulfilled, meaning that at some point in time, our generation does come to an end. Not because we die, but because our generation makes way for a new generation, and that new generation will be the first generation of millennium. We're going to talk about that a bit more when we get to Enoch's 10 weeks prophecy. And if you don't want to wait, you can take a look at our video called Enoch and the 10 weeks, where we give an overview of this whole concept. So the prophecy was 70 generations from the days that Enoch was writing in until the judgment of the angels, and therefore until the return of Yeshua. Now, it would be nice if this prophecy could have helped us to figure out the year that he would return, but as you can tell, it doesn't help us with that, because this generation, which is almost 2,000 years old at this point in time, will just continue until he comes back. But even if it can't help us figure out the year that he's coming back, it's still an amazing prophecy, because it's another indication to us that the plan all along was for Yeshua to come and to die and to be raised so that we could be adopted as children of the Most High. This 70 generations prophecy may also give us a little bit of an idea of at least one of the reasons why the apostles thought that the end of days was just around the corner. Luke is the one who put together this genealogy of Christ, where it's obvious that Yeshua is 70 generations from Enoch. And Luke was traveling with the Apostle Paul. And to us, it's obvious from studying the New Testament that all of the apostles and Yeshua were very familiar with the Book of Enoch. And so the very next thing in the Book of Enoch, after the 70 generations prophecy, is a description of the kingdom of God coming to this earth, of the Lord of the sheep coming, setting up his throne, and reigning here on earth. So it's understandable that the apostles would think, okay, 70 generations, now it's time for millennium, right? So which one of us is going to get to sit at your right hand? Because that's coming very soon, right? That's what the apostles were expecting. That once Yeshua came, it was time for the kingdom on earth. What they didn't realize at the time is that their generation would last for almost 2,000 years, and that it would include you and me as their brothers and sisters. So one day we're going to get to meet all of our brothers who got to hang out with Yeshua back in the day. We'll meet Peter and Paul and Luke and John and all of these guys. We will see them in millennium, where the apostles will be judges over the 12 tribes of Israel, as it's written in the Bible. And speaking of millennium, next time around, we're going to get our first glimpse into life in the millennial kingdom as described by our Father himself.